I can't believe how many issues obesity causes. There's hundreds of issues that people experience simultaneously. If folks only did one thing in their life to get healthy, it needs to be at a healthy body weight. If they do that, then they're omitting 70% of the problems that they could potentially have later on in life.
Welcome to Ending Chronic Disease, where we challenge everything you thought you knew about health. Join international best-selling author and wellness pioneer, Dr. Fabrizio Mancini, as he reveals how to transform your body, your mind, and your life starting today.
This is Dr. Fab Mancini. I'm super excited because I'm having one of my dear friends, Steven Reardon. Steven is an innovator in technology, and he has actually created a technology that I believe is going to be one of the leading solutions to one of the biggest epidemics in the United States right now, which is obesity. Now, we talk about chronic diseases. We talk about the fact that chronic disease is over 90% of the healthcare costs. We talk about how chronic diseases really ruin people's lives. It's making them go personally bankrupt. And obesity is one of those things. So Steven, it's so great to see you, man. Thank you for making the time from this busy schedule of yours to be with me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on. I always enjoy my time with you for sure.
Well, thank you, buddy. Well, first of all, I want to really, Steven, I've been such a big admirer of your technology, Viscered. As you know, I'm one of your biggest customers for many years. And so many thousands of doctors that are using this technology in their practices to help their patients not only reduce their weight, but more importantly, be able to have the kind of health that they are deserving. So let me talk a little bit about the statistics that are the latest statistics that come out in the epidemic of obesity and weight gain. So right now, 42.1%, according to the CDC last year, are obese. 42.1% of adults are obese in the United States. Now, obese is about 32 pounds above your normal weight. Now, 74%, according to the Journal of American Medical Association, are actually overweight or obese in the United States. So the reason that is a big challenge is because 7 out of the 10 people that you know right now are going through this major challenge, and obesity and overweight is one of the biggest foundational problems that are leading not only to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and chronic pain, and many others. But then it gets worse. Right now, according to the CDC, 2 years ago, among the youth, 2 to 19, 20% are obese. Now think about this, 20% are 32 pounds above their normal weight, affecting 15 million children in the United States. Now, as you know, over 6 to 7 of our children out of 10 are right now overweight. And this happened to me recently because I went to a theme park in Orlando and I couldn't believe my eyes. I'm like, where are the skinny children? Where are the normal weight children? It seemed like, when I went to school, there was maybe one chubby kid in our class. Well, that's not the case anymore. But it gets worse. This obesity issue is impacting primarily and more prevalent in the Black and Hispanic adults. Me being Hispanic, that's a big concern because, as you know, these are two very important demographics in our country, and they're rising every single day. But also, in the low-income areas, obesity is up to 2 times higher the risk due to the food insecurity and the lack of access to healthcare, according to Harvard University. But this also has a cost. Obesity in the United States is $173 billion a year, cost according to the CDC. And that means that individuals with obesity are paying almost $2,000 higher in annual medical costs than the average person. So that's enough of the statistics, Steven. I really wanted to get you here because, as you know, you've been in this space for a while. You have one of the leading technologies that we have seen in healthcare where thousands of doctors have embraced it because it works, because it's helping their patients be able to feel better. So let's start a little bit about what was it that made you start this journey, that you wanted to try to come up with a technology that was addressing this big challenge in our society?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as far as I go, I was an athlete in college and I was always in great shape. And then I got into the workforce and, stress, not living healthy, doing the wrong thing. And I gained a ton of weight. Shoot, I'd been on a diet for over 20 years myself. You do have my before and after pictures too, so you can flash those up. I mean, at one time, I'm a short guy. I'm 5'8" on a good day in shoes. And I got up to like 270 pounds. And, my life wasn't great. I had no energy. I wasn't at my best. Nothing was sharp on me. And I had known about these different types of technologies that claim to do exactly what my laser does. But I hadn't found anything with tangible results, nothing with clinical studies, nothing with truth behind it. So, I sought out to figure out how to get technology to assist in weight reduction. And, it took a while. I started the company back in 2014, and I didn't get clearance on this laser until late 2018, early 2019. But what I've done is I've been able to show with objective findings through the IRB and the FDA and the clinicaltrials.gov that our laser produces tangible, substantial fat reduction in a short period of time. And it's been such a huge blessing to people that have been at the point where I was, right? And so many others where they just figured, hey, maybe I'm just supposed to be fat, right? And they're looking at just the food component to it. They're not looking at the total physiology of their body, hormones, stress, how all these things apply into the inability to lose weight and their continued weight gain. So, we made it our mission. We've developed a device that's absolutely phenomenal. It's backed by science, it's backed by truth, and it's backed by credentials, which is really great. And it's been able to help tons of patients across the country, actually internationally as well. When we first started, we were actually selling these units in South America. So we actually have been able to help people in other countries as well. And it's been great. For the business owner, it's been a phenomenal solution for their patients. It's something that filled a huge need that their patients had that they couldn't provide them with. And now they can do that, which is great. So we're continuing to try to improve our operations. The technology is what it is. So it's not going anywhere. But the usage of it, the training component, the whole business system, it's something that we're constantly sharpening so that we can make this program even better.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, because there's a lot of people right now that are hearing this podcast or listening or watching it on YouTube. Let's talk a little bit about laser, cold laser, and which is one of the leading technologies in healthcare. And I'm a big believer. I'm seeing that technology is really what's transforming healthcare more than pharmaceuticals at this time. We have seen that technology has come in and disrupted this healthcare industry in a big way. So let's talk a little bit about cold laser, because there's a lot of people out there that may or may not have been exposed to cold laser. Why did you go to cold laser, and what was it about it that you felt was probably going to be one of the most effective ways to reduce the weight on an individual that is either overweight or obese?
Yeah, the biggest thing is the actual energy output. LEDs are not strong enough. We've got to drive a certain dosage of energy density into the specific cells, which would be the adipose tissue, right? Which, they're under several layers of epidermal tissue. So cold laser is the only thing that's got enough power to get there. Now, with that said, it's not just about using a high-powered laser or a cold laser. There's also a specific function, and there's a marriage between two different type of lasers that we use. One is infrared and one is red. So utilizing both of those those lasers that are coherent to each other with a specific pulsing sequence allows us to get the energy absorbed into the cells that need it absorbed into.
Well, I know that this has been years in development, but one of the things that I was very impressed when I first became aware of the technology in one of the biggest functional medicine events in the country is the fact that you've done some incredible clinical studies. And that's the reason that the FDA has cleared it for weight loss. Tell me a little bit about what was it about that study that really reinforced to you the value that this will have for the millions of people that are benefiting from it?
Yeah, so the clinical study was mandated by the FDA because, you know, we're going after claims that nobody is allowed to say because they haven't had clearance on it yet. No one's proven fat reduction or weight reduction. All that the FDA and the IRB had seen prior to this was circumferential difference, which is skin tightening. So there's tons of devices out there that can achieve that, but none of them have been successful with fat reduction and weight reduction. So for us, it sets us apart. We can confidently say that we are the only non-invasive laser with outcome measures for fat reduction and weight reduction. So for us, you know, really what it does is it makes its mark to the community and says, hey, this device is going to work. It's been vetted, it's been tested, and it actually has produced some phenomenal outcomes. You know, we did average a little over of half a pound of fat loss per 15-minute treatment, which was substantial.
Well,
So it gives the consumer a peace of mind.
Yeah, and what I love about it is
This is going to work.
so many doctors have embraced it, which, like me, that I recommended to so many of my patients. How has that been for you, making sure that the doctors are not only well aware, because I know your training for the doctors is very extensive, but also for the doctors to be able to understand what it is that this particular laser through its frequencies is doing for that patient.
Yeah, educating them is so important because there's so many different options out there, and there's so many different folks that are marketing certain claims that they shouldn't be, right? So differentiating truth from fiction is something that, you know, we have to do on a daily basis when we speak to providers. You know, it's important that they understand the difference. They understand that, you know, what we say is actually truth. So we provide them with all of the documentation. It's all public information anyways. You know, if you do a comparison of us versus them, you're going to see a major difference. You're going to see that we're the only ones that pull fat off the body. We're the only ones that have done it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the average consumer out there. And you mentioned it a little bit earlier, but I want us to see if we can go a little bit deeper. Because you are in this space, you know a lot of the things that consumers are exposed to, not only when they search Google, Amazon, and many others, looking for a possible solution. What are some of the things that consumers need to be aware of the differences out there so they really understand that when they actually have this type of laser with the type of frequencies that has taken so many years to develop, with the fact that the FDA has vetted it through their clinical trials and given the clear to be able to claim weight loss and weight reduction, what are some of the things out there that you're seeing that are more of a marketing strategy that maybe the consumers will get a little bit confused?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So for the consumers, you know, the biggest thing that we try to impress upon our clinic owners is to allow these consumers to try the laser to see for themselves. You know, taking somebody's word for it doesn't go very far these days with all the snake oil salesmen that are out there in the world, right? So we're more of a show me type of company. You know, we know that the laser is going to produce results. So we have our clinicians invite these prospects in to get a session, to try it, to see the results before they commit any time or any money. And it's important because all of these consumers have spent thousands of dollars and tens of years and 20s of years, right? I mean, months, weeks, years, so much time out of their life to try to achieve this goal that they've not been successful with before. And a lot of times it's because they weren't utilizing something or a modality that actually was designed to achieve that goal. So educating them, having them try it is really the biggest thing. You know, when a patient comes in and they get a session and they literally lose an inch off of their waist or their pants feel looser, it means something. You know, it creates the utmost faith in what they're doing, and it allows them to be confident, to move forward, and to be successful. Not just start the program, but have confidence all the way through it, because it's a roller coaster. You know, losing weight it's an emotional battle. And if you don't see the pounds coming off, you get discouraged and you go back to the old way. You know, I'd rather eat and feel good than have to, you know, suffer and not lose weight. Well, there's no suffering with this, which is nice. You know, as the patients know, as long as they show up for their treatment and as long as they follow our plan, they're going to win. And this really truly can be the last time they ever have to dedicate time or money towards this.
Let's talk a little bit about the mechanism of the laser and how it works, because I think it's important for people to understand that you just said it. This is not just a short-term solution. This is a transformation for life. This is something that is a lot deeper than that. So take me in a layman's term, what is it that is really happening when we put the paddles around our waist or around our legs? Or I know that we're going to talk a minute about the skin tightening and all of that, but for the weight loss itself, what's happening with the laser?
Yeah, specifically for fat loss, what we're doing is we're able to send this dosage of energy directly to the adipose tissue and get it absorbed. And we stimulate a process in the body called cellular respiration and ATP synthesis. So in layman's terms, what we're doing is we're feeding energy to the cell, the brain, and it's activating a process which is called ATP synthesis. And that's the immediate release and use of fat for energy. So the body does this naturally, but it does it only during specific times, right? When we have to create some sort of explosive movement, or our bodies we need energy in order to expend the energy. So a quick example, you're walking down the street and there's a car, jumps the curb and it's heading towards you. You have to be able to sprint out of the way. So in order to do that, this natural fight or flight, right, that's built into our bodies and our physiology, stimulates ATP. The body has a rush of energy, and boom, we're able to sprint out of the way. So what we're doing is we are stimulating that process. A ton of fat pushed out and used. Now ATP only lasts for 4 to 5 seconds in the body, but our treatments are 15 minutes. So what we're doing is we're pulsing this laser to stimulate that process and duplicate that process over and over and over again throughout a whole 15 minutes worth of treatment. That's how we're able to achieve so much fat reduction. And again, a half a pound of fat is about 1,800 calories worth of energy, which is a ton. So that's how we're able to do it. It's literally, we're triggering ATP synthesis. And the only way to do that is to be able to get that laser absorbed into the adipose tissue. We figured out what I invented was really the delivery mechanism of how to get in that infrared to absorb into the adipose, because red light by itself can't do it. There's no coefficient energy absorption into adipose tissue through any type of red frequency. So those red lights that you see maybe from the other machines, but also that you see with us, they're not stimulating fat loss. We use that red light as kind of like a lead blocker, like in football. So it's called photo bleaching. So we use that red laser to absorb into the skin, and it allows our infrared to bypass and move on down to that adipose tissue. So really, what Invisired is, how does it work? It's a combination of 2 lasers that work together to achieve fat reduction, stimulate that ATP. And then also a couple byproducts of this laser is going to be increased lymphatic system health. So the body, after it burns it, all that waste needs to leave. We know the used energy leaves through O2, through respiratory exhaustion, but all of those heavy metals and toxins, they leave through the lymph system. And it cleans up the lymph system tremendously. People feel great when they use this.
Well, let's talk a little bit about another component to the technology, and that is the fact that we have the component of being able to do the skin tightness and help people with cellulite. Tell me a little bit about what were you thinking when you were putting that component into the technology?
So really, that's a byproduct of the red laser hitting the skin. So it's not even something we can avoid, you know. And it's great because for the weight loss patients, there's always a concern about extra skin. Even me, you know, I lost 60, 70 pounds. So you'll be able to see on those pictures, there's no loose skin. Why? Because I used the device while I was losing the weight, so my skin was able to tighten. You know, there's so many great benefits of both of those lasers independently. The red, it helps increase collagen production, fibroblasts within the cells. It tightens skin. There's so many great reactions that the body has to the red. So achieving those aesthetics goals are very, very easy.
Well, and what would you say right now for people that are really struggling with their weight? I mean, what's beautiful about you is not only are you the inventor, but you're actually a customer. You've been through this yourself. What do you feel is the greatest emotional value that somebody needs to take into consideration? Because you mentioned a little bit earlier, you know, when we're overweight and when we're obese, it not only impacts our physical health. We know it's a foundation for a lot of the chronic diseases out there, but one of the biggest challenges that I find is the emotional health, the low self-esteem, the anxiety, the depressions, all of that comes with it. Tell us a little bit about what are some of the feedback that you get from some of your customers once they start seeing the difference within their own bodies?
Really, the first thing is the motivation factor. You know, these folks have been in a spot for a long time, and they really were not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. So this is something that is so motivating for these patients. And what's great about it is they actually start making lifestyle changes too, because they see it's working and they know, hey, like this fat is coming off my body without a lot of work. Now I've got time to start working on some things that I know I need to, like the food component, like the sleep component. These folks start getting healthy and they do it over a long period of time, right? They spoon feed themselves, which is the best way to do it, right? Yeah, you can see those pictures right there. Actually, guys, I'm lighter than that now. I'll get you a new one. I'm like 180. So this is no exercise at all. This is literally me using this laser over the course of about 8-9 months. You know, I had a lot to lose and I didn't do anything extra. Exercise is important for long-term health, but I did this without exercising. I did this without dieting, you know? So what's amazing is these people know I can do this now, and I'm going to start doing these other important activities to better my life as well. So it's really a great way for them to take a holistic approach at this and to be able to work on these addictions they have with food, emotional eating. You know, you're sleeping better, so you have more energy, right? Your hormones start to balance out. When we get better sleep and we release fat, well, guess what? The levels of ghrelin reduce and the leptin increases, so we're more satiated. You know, you're a better person. You're a better husband or wife. You're a better father or mother. You're a better friend, and you're better professionally. You know, my brain function is through the roof. I can't believe how many issues obesity causes. And, you know, we name the statistics, but there's hundreds of issues that people experience simultaneously just because of the weight. If folks only did one thing in their life to get healthy, it needs to be at a healthy body weight. If they do that, then they're omitting 70% of the problems that they could potentially have later on in life.
Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate your time. And for those of you that are listening, I just want to reiterate that obesity and weight gain has become one of the biggest challenges that we have right now in our healthcare system, in our personal lives. And like Steven said, if we can just focus on trying to do that. Now, I know, and the reason that I'm such a big fan is because I've seen with my own eyes that many times people try different diets and all of that and just doesn't work. And it's not sustainable for many reasons. But when you do a technology that's been proven and cleared by the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, now all of a sudden you give you a little bit more confidence to be able to keep that weight off for a long time, for enough time for you to begin to change some of the lifestyle choices. And it just gives you that confidence to say, this time is going to be different. So I'm going to go ahead and put a link here where you can actually learn more about this. And if you're interested in learning about this technology and also how to find a provider that has this technology, this will be an opportunity for you to do so too. Or if you have any questions regarding this technology, I'm going to put a link right here that will guide you and give you an opportunity to speak to a specialist that will give you that information and those answers. So, Steven, thank you so much. It was great seeing you. For those of you that are listening, please make sure you check this out. Invisaret, one of the leading technologies and innovative technologies in healthcare right now, and potentially the one that is going to solve some of these obesity issues that we're having. God bless you and see you soon.
Thanks, Doc.
To learn more about Dr. Fabrizio Mancini's groundbreaking work, visit www.endingchronicdisease.com and join the movement. Together, we can end the silent epidemic of chronic disease and create a healthier, more vibrant world. Thank you for tuning in. Until next time, be well and stay inspired.